Right at the heart of traditional predictive project management is the project lifecycle and the project process that underpins it. And in this video, I want to give you 5 tips concerning the project lifecycle and the project process. Before I start with my tips, I want to introduce you to a basic project lifecycle model, the one that I use in our training at online PM courses. And this is the simplest model that you can create that contains enough subtlety and detail to fully understand the basics of project management. And it's a 4-stage lifecycle model. It starts with definition, defining what the project is and is not. Second stage is planning, understanding how you're going to deliver the project and what precisely it is you're going to deliver. And for that reason, some people prefer to call it the design stage. And then there's the delivery stage where we implement the project, we execute the plan. And finally, the final stage is where we close down our project in an orderly manner. So here are my 5 tips to help you get the best out of your project lifecycle and the processes that underpin it. Tip number 1. The most important thing about the project lifecycle is to understand what it's there for. It's not the lifecycle itself, it's the stages in the lifecycle that matter. Each stage represents a shift from one set of priorities to another. Priorities about what you're doing and the kind of resources and the quantity of resources you'll need to get it done. Almost certainly, as a project manager, you'll find your organization has a preferred project management lifecycle model, and you too will probably have your own preferred model, and chances are that dates back to when you first learned project management or the influence of an important project mentor in your career. But for each project, you should be thinking anew about what stages you'll need for your project so that you can gain full control over it and understand and articulate how you're going to deliver your project. For example, do you need to split planning stages into initial and detailed planning? Do you need to split delivery into perhaps a pilot stage and then a full delivery stage and maybe even a testing stage? Indeed, if you do have a testing stage, do you need to split it into phases of component and system and user testing? Every stage has a purpose. The more stages you have, the more complex your project becomes. So try to strip your project down to the fewest possible number of stages, but always make sure you have enough stages so that you can gain control over each component part of your project. Tip number 2. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of allocating a good amount of time to the project definition stage, because it's at this stage that you create the foundations of your project. You are absolutely crystal clear what your project is going to be and what it is not going to be. And at the same time, you win support and understanding from your stakeholders so that there is no misunderstandings later on in the project. Consequently, it's about articulating the goal and the objectives of your project and clarifying the scope of what you will do and what you will not do, and getting that signed off, crucially by your client, by your sponsor, by the people who are ultimately paying for your time and paying for the project. Without a proper project definition, you have no basis to plan your project. And without a project plan, delivering your project will become a complete nightmare. So please give plenty of time to defining your project. It's where you build relationships with your stakeholders and make sure you design a project that will properly meet their needs and comply with their preferences as far as is possible. Tip number 3. Consider the benefits of splitting out a distinct project discovery stage ahead of your project definition. It's almost like doing your project before you do your project. It's where you start to understand what it is your organization needs and what it already has, so that you can understand the place of your project within the wider organisation. It's also the time when you do your research. You explore and start to understand the kinds of solutions that are available and which ones are likely to be most suitable for your project and for the context within which it'll sit. And finally, during the project discovery phase is where you start to meet and get to know your stakeholders, to understand the whole geography of the stakeholders of your project. That way, you can start to fit together how different political blocks work, the different priorities that those individual stakeholders have, and how they're likely to work together to either support or oppose your project. Building the initial relationships means that when you move into the project definition stage, you can work properly with those stakeholders to get their support and engagement and to build a project definition which will work to the best possible advantage for all your stakeholders. Tip number 4. Anyone who knows me, anyone who's attended my training will know that a hobby horse of mine is project governance. So, tip number 4 is to use stage gates to add control and good governance to the boundaries between the stages of your project lifecycle. Stage gates are where we ask questions so that we can make a go, no-go decision on continuing with our project into the next stage. And those go, no-go questions fall into 2 categories. And the first are backward-looking questions which say, have we done everything in this stage that we think we finished so that we can be satisfied we are ready to move forward? And the forward-looking question is, having learned what we've learned, having done what we've done, and also surveying the environment as it is now rather than when we started planning our project, is it still the right thing to do to proceed? This level of control, this level of governance will make sure that you never run ahead of yourself on your project and you never continue to work on a project which is no longer valuable to the sponsoring organisation. Finally, tip number 5, never neglect the project closure stage. It's very easy once you've handed over the products, the deliverables that you've created, and you're moving into the project closure stage to start to get itchy feet. Yes, you're a project manager. You're someone who makes things happen. You're someone who plans new endeavours. Closing a project down, it's a bit transactional. It's not exciting. And so you'll want to start thinking about that next project and that next project. And consequently, too many projects have handed over, but they're left unfinished, unclosed. That's not good for the organisation. It's not good for governance. And ultimately, it's not good psychologically for the project team members who still have 1 or 2 jobs hanging over them as they move into the next project. And this is the same for you. So make sure you close your project down in an orderly fashion. Do all the things you need to close your project and make sure that you manage the exit from your project of each of your team members so that they're confident to know that someone's on their side and that they don't have to hustle for themselves. That way they can focus on their role in closing down a project. And also make sure that you set aside time for yourself in a controlled way to think about your next project and your next engagement, but that you've got plenty of time to keep your head in the task of closing down your project. These 5 tips have been inspired by our Kindle exclusive ebook, Project Lifecycle, The Project Process. In this ebook, you'll find 7 chapters that cover the following topics: the project lifecycle and 4 essential stages, project management essentials, an 8-step template, why the stage gate process will make you a better project manager, what is the project discovery stage, how to build a robust project definition, 12 project planning mistakes and how to fix them, and project closure, your complete guide to how to close down your project. And there are also 2 helpful appendices. Appendix 1 is, do you know how to craft the perfect project name? And Appendix 2 is a StageGate evaluation checklist. You'll find links to this ebook and all of our Kindle exclusive ebooks in the description. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. And why not hit the notification bell to get an email every time we publish a new video like this one. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.